Of course, the biggest news in entertainment is the forthcoming Paramount acquisition of Warner Brothers, if it does indeed happen. Now, it's been facing some headwinds recently. California and New York have apparently said they are going to sue to stop it in court. We'll see how that transpires. Then yesterday we talked about the fact that the UK, England, has launched an investigation into it, which may or may not get onto a phase 2. And if it does, it could delay it and all that kind of stuff. Well, now there's another thing. As according to this report in Variety, the EU has launched a probe of Paramount's $24 billion in Middle Eastern funding for the Warner Brothers deal. Now, I had to point out to somebody in the chat a little bit earlier, the UK is not the EU. They are two different things. The UK is England, the EU is the European Union, and they are not the same thing. Because I had a few people say, wait, they talked about this yesterday. No, this is very different. And this is specifically about the foreign money being involved. Now, of course, one of the things about the Paramount deal that's been raising a lot of eyebrows is the fact that nearly 50% of it is going to be the purchase. Nearly 50% of the money for the purchase is coming from foreign investment, and almost 40% of that is coming from the Middle East. And that's got some people concerned, both in the US and apparently in the EU. The article in Variety goes on to say this. The European Union's regulatory arm is investigating Paramount Skydance's proposed Warner Brothers Discovery mega merger over the financial backing of 3 Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds. The European Commission is investigating the $111 billion Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery deal under the EU's Foreign Subsidiaries Regulation, looking at approximately $24 billion being fronted by the takeover by the sovereign wealth funds of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. The EU has set a provisional July 14th deadline for the vetting of the deal under the law, according to a notice posted on the European Commission site. That's in addition to its investigation under standard merger rules with a July 7th deadline. So the EU is doing a standard investigation of the mega merger, which is standard. So that shouldn't raise any flags. I mean, it could be problematic, but generally speaking, that was a standard thing. But this specific investigation that they're now launching, which, by the way, some American politicians have been calling for an investigation into the foreign funds because, there are some people not terribly comfortable with 2 of America's largest news agencies being partially owned by Middle Eastern interests. Or any foreign interest.
It's like also the percentage of ownership that they're trying to get permissions for. I mean, Rob and I read a few weeks ago on the TV end, they're looking to get permissions for 100% interest on their television end, which is like unheard of.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a really convoluted Rubik's Cube kind of a deal being put together. Again, one of the big differences between the Disney acquisition of Fox is when Disney was buying Fox, Disney simply signed a check and bought Fox.
Yeah.
This is the people buying Warner Brothers don't have the money to buy Warner Brothers, and they're having to go and get foreign debt in order to do it. And so, I've said this whole time, and I said it again yesterday, even when we were talking about England launching its investigation. I said, look, are all these things problematic? Yes. At the end of the day, do I want this deal to go through? No, I would rather see Warner Brothers as an independent company. But at the end of the day, I still believe that this deal will go through. And then when it does go through, we're just going to have to hope for the best and really hope this thing works out. I was texting with a friend of mine in the industry yesterday and said there are so many points of failure now on this.
Mm-hmm.
If any one of these things goes critical, it stops the deal. If the California and New York states lawsuits succeed, and we don't know they will, but if they do, that stops the deal. If the UK decides this merger violates our laws, that could stop the deal. If the EU decides we think the amount of foreign investment in this is problematic, blah, blah, that will stop the deal. It's not like there's any one hurdle. It's like any one of these hurdles topple and it stops the deal. And I'm starting to wonder, and as a friend of mine pointed out, I was talking about how there would be a $7 million penalty that Paramount was going to have to pay Warner Brothers shareholders for every month that the closing of the deal gets delayed. A friend of mine sent me some corrected numbers on this. It's actually more like $600 million a quarter, which is way more than what I thought it was.
Wow.
way more. Plus, there's a certain date that a specific date that if it's not done by that specific date, there's like a $3 billion penalty that Paramount has to pay. So even if any of these hurdles don't stop the deal, it could delay, any one of them could delay the deal enough that it simply becomes far too expensive for Paramount to continue pursuing it. So while right up to yesterday, I was saying, look, at the end of the day, I still believe this deal is going to go through and it will close. If I had to bet $100 today, I still think I would bet the 100 on the deal closing and finishing. But I wouldn't be as comfortable with that bet as I was yesterday. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Hims. You know, one of the hardest things about trying to lose weight is just figuring out what actually works. Because we've seen them all. There are a million trends, diets, and gimmicks out there. And honestly, it can get overwhelming. And that's why weight loss by Hims really stands out. Hims now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill at its lowest price ever and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever and only GLP-1 available in a pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. And the process is extremely convenient. Everything happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who determines if treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medication gets delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/Campea to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/Campea. hims.com/Campea. Based on advertised cash price for 30-day supply of medication only. Membership required, fee not included, and billed separately. Weight loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit hims.com. So anyway, Rob, we've seen yet another thing pop up here that could prove to be an obstacle for the Paramount deal. What are you taking away from this specific one that the EU is now launching?
Well, I think that there's concern that, look, Qatar and Saudi Arabia are not, they don't exactly align ideologically with the West in terms of, and if they're going to have an inordinate amount of sway over news organizations and things like that, I think there's a question of, are they going to be able to manipulate our news or anything like that? However, on the other side, the flip side of that is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia he's a big movie fan. And he wants to get, like I was being told, a friend of mine, they have made inflatable sound stages that they can shoot in. Like they're developing new technologies. So I think that there's questions there, but also everyone loves movies. And as the Middle Eastern market opens up, the same way that China opened up to the U.S. And more movies, there's a lot of opportunity there. And if there's no better way to share the way people think and feel than there is through movies. Because like we've always said, everybody sits down in the dark, no matter who you are, and they'll watch what's up on the screen. So it could be a really beneficial thing globally to have more trade and more. But you've got to be careful that money doesn't come with caveats, so to speak. And I think that's what people are worried about. But on the other hand, Netflix doesn't have to borrow money either. And I think having to borrow a bunch of money to finance a deal like this is not healthy in and of itself, because you got to pay that money back.
And and you're acquiring a company that already has debt.
Yeah.
And your company already has established debt.
And it's not, I mean, mergers and acquisitions are usually done from a position of strength. And I don't think that Paramount, I mean, obviously they're weakening themselves tremendously by having to borrow so much money to leverage this kind of a deal. So I think it's probably like you're going to happen, but I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing in the long run, because you still have to make movies, which you also have to borrow money to do. and if I could see it running away from itself very quickly.
You're up against the wall. All your movies have to be big successes.
Yeah. And look, I've seen a couple of people in the live chat pointing out, well, wait a minute. And this is good to bring up. Saying there's the interests of the sovereign funds of Qatar and Saudi Arabia. They're going to be non-voting shares.
Sure.
Really? Pinky swear? You pinky swear that they will see. This is
Are
the
you
thing.
sure about that?
It's
Yeah,
fine.
we're sure about that.
It's fine if on paper. It's fine if on paper you say, "Oh, they won't have voting rights." Okay, cool.
Who do they influence that votes?
But nobody's handing you $30 billion. Nobody is handing you $30 billion without them having their hooks in you. It just is what it is. And when you are going to have Paramount and the Ellisons, who are going to be now that much in debt to Qatar and Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, you don't have to, on paper, have voting shares. All you need is a phone.
Yeah.
You just call somebody and say, "We'd like to see this happen." Be a shame if all of a sudden there was a run put on the $30 billion you owe us. Be a real shame. See, that's the thing. And there's nothing you can do about it. And so that's always, I had a friend of mine once ask if they could borrow a certain amount of money. And I had questioned whether this friend of mine would be able to pay me back. And I said this. So I said this to him. I said, "Look, I want to help you out. I do, but I can't just lose this amount of money you need to borrow. Like, I'm not in the position that I can just lose that. I can be apart from it from a bit, and I'd like to help you out. But if you, for some or whatever reason, couldn't pay me back, I'm screwed. So I'll tell you what, sign your car over to me. You keep the car, but you sign it over to me so that if everything goes south, I'm not going to be screwed and I'll be able to get the money back that I'm owed."
You're collateralizing a loan.
Yeah, and that's for this tiny little bit amount of money. Tiny. You think someone's going to be handing you like 30 or 40 billion dollars with no catch?
Well, that's
Come on.
That's how.
Come on.
Time immemorial. That's how you've always gained influence over people. I mean, look at how much money Qatar has poured into higher education in this country, and everybody acts like, "Oh no, they're just paying for it."
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's never been true in the history of humanity.
What is
now,
the-
again, please don't misinterpret my skepticism as if I'm suggesting that the sovereign funds of Qatar, Saudi Arabia have nefarious motives. I'm not suggesting that. What I am simply saying is nobody gives you $30 billion without you being their bitch.
That's right.
I'm
However,
sorry.
I am open to that kind of money.
Yes, I am
If
open
you
to
were
that sort of
to-
thing.
And by the way, that's true of any business. That's true of any person that's going to invest billions of dollars into. They're doing it. They're not just doing it because they're nice. It ain't show friends. It's show business.
And all that is simply to say that it is then reasonable that a body like the European Union may want to say, "Hold on a second, we want to look into this."
Well, they've got their crack inspector. Preeminent. Your pussy is on the
there it
job.
Europussy's on the case.
Look at him. He's already skeptical.
Well,
He's like, "I will get them."
yes.
Especially like movies, American movies and American entertainment go everywhere around the world. And the European Union's going to want to know, is this going to change? I mean, they want to know what's going to happen now. And I mean, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at, I think.
Yeah, again,
carefully.
and again, I'm not suggesting anybody has nefarious motives. I'm not suggesting that the European Union is going to find all these dark problems. I'm simply saying it is reasonable under such circumstances that the EU would want to say, we need to take a closer look at this. Now, whether it amounts to anything, we'll have to wait and find out. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this whole thing? It is yet another obstacle in the way of the Paramount deal. I still think it's going to go through, but I'm feeling less certain about it. Anyway, whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called The John Campea Show Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.